implicit part of our critique of the charter school movement needs to be made explicit. One part of that is our real desire as parents and teachers and students and neighbors to have good neighborhood schools. You know, like the suburbs have, huh? And also, put it on the table, make it explicit, that the role of public schools in inculcating particular values, not just reading and writing. Schools are socializing institutions. They socialize our children and they socialize us. That these particular values have to be the value of democracy, fairness and non-discrimination, civic participation. All of this is part of the mission of the school. Put that on the table and hold every school accountable to that standard. Now, why should we care about neighborhood schools? Well, for one thing, we care about our neighborhoods. It's where we live. It's our homes. It's the faces we see in the street. It's the members of our congregations. It's the people we chat in the supermarket. All of that adds up to a sense of belonging and a sense of home. It spreads news easily. These are sources of power, particularly for people who don't have other sources of power. And so you might ask, why don't we have good neighborhood public schools in most of our neighborhoods? And of course we know the answer to that, because most of the families lack the social capital to compel excellence. And they lack the social capital as well to compel other agencies of the government and of the market to meet their needs for playgrounds that are clean, fair lending practices, safe and affordable housing, respectful treatment by the police, and so forth. It's the same ball of wax, and you cannot really truncate education from any of it. Moreover, we know that all of the rights that we have are interdependent, and that is a human rights view of rights. In other words, we recognize that a child whose family is forced to move from shelter to shelter faces a very daily challenge accessing his right or her right to education. And of course, these children who are being moved from shelter to shelter are never going to end up in a charter school. They'd be bounced out in a minute. But these rights are interdependent. You can't trade right for right. They all go down together. So the other thing I think we have to put on the table is that a family with little social capital can't really even expect a good experience at a good school. And I'll tell you, one of the saddest days of my life as a PTA president was when a group of Latina mothers during a coffee morning came and told me that their children had been slapped around by a substitute for the last month in their first grade class. Why hadn't they told the principal? Because the principal was new, she hadn't earned their trust yet, and they were afraid of the Immigration Service as a retaliatory measure. This is the kind of dilemma, these really raw ethical dilemma that people with little power face. But I have to hand it to these mothers. They knew exactly why they hadn't told the principal. In contrast, I hope you've picked up the Daily News op-ed piece by a Harlem mother who published her piece in the Daily News saying that parent choice, real parent power, is choice. And in fact, school governance as a source of power is going to only undermine her children's education. Now there's somebody who has a consciousness issue. She's going to, and in fact, she doesn't want to wait for zone schools to get better. Well, nobody's going to wait. I mean, waiting isn't going to get the answer to that problem. But in an event, she has drunk the Kool-Aid and she is now a consumer. And she's now looking to make choices. She has given up her civic rights. She feels compelled to do that. All right, so we need to understand the predicament that this is putting parents in. And from my perspective, what I'd like to say is that there really is a value, an inherent potential to the neighborhood school that we must reclaim. And that is, first of all, geography matters. It really matters whether or not you can walk around the corner to the PA meeting or you have to take 2 subways. It really matters to the parents of Harlem School 241 that they can assemble a network of older children, parents, and grandmas to drop off and pick up their kids because they work at strange hours and they can't do it themselves. Geography matters. It matters when a friend of mine saw my son fooling around with his friends and playing hooky, that she knew who his mother was and told me, so when I opened the door to say, "How is school, dear?" I was totally on top of it. That is what a neighborhood does. It also, it's the gossip. It's the talking on the park bench. In contrast, I have to say my son went to Bronx Science, which is a school that has nobody from the Bronx, but a totally crazy principal. And there was absolutely no way the parents can get traction at that school because we come from all over the city. We don't know each other, and there's not one particular public official that is answerable to us about that school. In the end, so my belief is that we have to demand good public schools the way they have them in the suburbs in most of America so that we can exercise our civil, our rights to participation and to mobilize our communities to teach the skills that we need to further enhance political power, which is, for example, letter writing or getting a permit for something or inviting a local public official in. These are things which intermediary organizations in the neighborhood are supposed to be doing. They're not doing because they've all gotten contracts, but they should be doing, and that's historically what churches did. They all now have after-school programs and have turned their backs, basically, on political mobilization. So, in the end, I want to say, I think we're going to have to go into some very contested territory to demand good public neighborhood schools. And that is, we're going to have to get over the fact that that means Riverdale is going to have a school that is going to be mostly white and very good. We have got to get over it. We have got to, the rest of the city is mostly black and brown. There are not enough whites to go around, and they're not going around anyway. They're staying in their communities. We have got to build up the local schools in the neighborhoods and really fight for them.